We'll get going in a minute. All right. Okay. Just trying to make sure I can see the chat. All right. Welcome to One Game Dad. I'm Gregory Palaci, and today I'm playing Path of Exile, a game that previously I was not able to think of the name for. And yeah, I'm playing this in part because it's free, in part because, well, I do enjoy a good action RPG, but also because I want to talk about conflict today. And what better way to do that than while talking about a game that's about nothing but conflict? You know, this game is one where you are quite literally just killing things. There's very little other verbs you use in this. As you can see, I am just slaughtering people and creatures similar to Diablo or Torchlight or the few other games out there that fall into the action RPG category. Now, it's one that is fun, but it doesn't keep you going, or at least it doesn't keep me as interested as long as some others. I will complete a campaign and then that's about it. I don't really end up going back to play again. I mean, I'll do it with friends and hopefully I'll get some family in to play this. Not necessarily on the podcast, but well, I want to... These games are always better with a party. And yeah, it's one I'd like to play with others. Had some odd trouble getting Diablo 3 going on the Xbox, connecting between my brother and myself, or between my father. I mean, my brother and father play on the same Xbox, so that was understandable why they struggled to connect to me or I to them. I think some of it was their NAT settings at the time. We haven't tried in a while. In fact, it's probably been a couple of years since we've attempted that. And now Path of Exile is out on the Xbox. So why not play this instead? But, this game is all about violence and committing violence on things big and small. As you can see, I just keep hitting things and fireballs go flying from my every swing. And I'm playing a Marauder, which is the equivalent of the Barbarian class from Diablo 3. And it's... well, I enjoy the melee classes, particularly those that are quite up and in the combat. I don't know what that says about me, but it's probably really more emphasized by the fact that I do play rugby. In fact, had you seen me yesterday when I was playing at a game, which is why I was not streaming then, I 2 minutes left in the game, ended up getting a bloody nose, and it was just pouring from my nose. I called for a tampon because yes, men use tampons too, so I tend to only ever put them in my nose. And it staunched some bleeding, but it was just pouring, and yeah, had I, you know, shown that much blood, it would have been well against probably the policies of YouTube and Twitch and many other sites because of well, you know, they don't want to actually show violence. But yeah, the way I looked was anything but pretty. Because it was, you know, just, you know, there's some mud and dirt and sweat all on my face, and then combined with that was just the blood, and it was everywhere. It made me look like I had a goatee for how much was just sitting on my face. And yeah, I mean, I didn't break my nose for once, which was a good thing. But this isn't working. Yeah. Playing rugby, you know, doing these physical things, it gives me, well, it's kind of the same endurance experience. I mean, it's violent, but it's not violence for the sake of violence. It's the physical reality of playing a contact sport. And when you are participating in such a sport, you know, there's always a possibility of getting hurt, which is something that games don't always convey very well, especially with the varying types of art styles that are out there. In particular, you know, like Chibi games, you know, the cute little Japanese style games. I don't know, I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been wondering if they do their stories, do the conflict that they're displaying any justice because of how innocent and sedate the violence of those can be, of that conflict. And I don't know anymore. I understand that back in the early Game Boy days, that there was a you know, a limit to what could be displayed. You know, there were physical limitations on the style of artwork that was possible. But those, by and large, have disappeared. You know, we've very much moved on towards photorealism in a lot of games. Not that this particular game is, but there's still a level of realism. There's a level of a level of, I don't know, I'm really at a loss for words here. these games are violent without downplaying it to the same degree, right? Because they are all about violence. You're not playing children. You're not innocent. The world isn't innocent, and acting like there is the potential for other ways out of conflicts, whereas I feel like that is something very counter to what the fantasy that Final Fantasy or Fire Emblem or others present, but they're so enraptured by the power fantasies presented in feudal states, as well as, you know, the idea of being the chosen one, that, you know, they're dismissive of what they're ultimately may be saying, not intending to say, but are by what they're presenting to their audience. And that kind of makes me uncomfortable. Not that someone shouldn't make such games. I am not going to make such a game. Not that I wouldn't do something with those art styles, but I think there's something more one can say with those styles that I would like to see. Yeah, you know, because those games are so often played by kids, and this being a father, and it's something I've been thinking for a while before I even became a father. Not that I'm going to hide my child from conflict. There's too much in the world to do that. But it's...
You strike me as someone who craves a higher purpose, something worthy, something like
the conflict that these
Three tribes battle for this
games
earth.
have,
Every
you know,
day my brethren
it's
and I battle in dark
some of it's
night
personal,
ransom.
which is great. You know, people need to experience those stories.
Spare the lives of
A lot of it
you need take
is interpersonal. It
But if
is
peace
in
is
real life, and
rewarded
yet
for you,
it's
the
conflict
apples
not
that
in
hang
the
around
difference
and the lures
of
were
ideas or
Join with mine. Those
methodologies.
trinkets will forge us a new
It's
strength
outright
thereby. The strength
violent,
of peace.
and yet it's always presented with
I knew you were worthy. Rid this troubled land of two of its worst ailments. And before the light leaves Creighton and Alira's eyes, be sure to tell them.
Yeah, sorry. I'm blanking there as I pay attention to this story. Those games, and I know that they're not directly targeted towards children, but they are something that affects children and and how things are presented. So yeah, I find myself thinking that the art style, and it also ties into the story, it's not art style belies, you know, what is going on. And granted, there's certainly a distance and an and a fantasy to what's occurring here in Path of Exile that, you know, no human would be able to survive were they were this real? Were they to be attacked by such numbers? And, you know, so it just, I'm not sure that violence is, violence is best served by particular art styles in games, or at least there should be something more to it. And I don't even want to play games that are solely violent. Well, you know, last time I played Firewatch, and I love games like that for the very reason that violence is not the purpose of the game. There is no, you are not killing things, you are not attacking things. Yeah, instead you are playing out a story. You are, you know, experiencing a world, experiencing what someone else has created. And it's not purely systems driven. There is a level of authorship there that really appeals to me. Which is funny because the current game I'm working on is actually systems driven and is a survival simulator. Not that there's violence in this one like there is in so many survival simulators, but wow, why can I not hit this? Yeah, but it's a survival simulator without the violence. I am attempting to make the most boring game in the world, which isn't actually far from true. I am trying to create a game that gets boredom across. But yeah, I understand why violence is, why attacking something is so common in video games. You know, I believe it has to do with the binary nature of computers, in that one moment something is there, the next it is not, and that makes it easy to do for violence, because one moment there is something to attack, the next there is not. It's on or it's off. And in the case of, you know, enemies, they're either alive or they're dead. Whereas, you know, with so many other things, it's a spectrum, or it's Well, you want it to be a spectrum, or you want it to be a matrix. You want more from what you want to present a way or create a way to choose what happens in a manner that you want to do something other than that binary. You want to try to create a mechanism, a system that enables a greater amount of choice. Dialogue trees to some degree do that because you can have more than a yes or no. You can have other ways of interacting. And you know, I chose this game because there is no other way of interacting. Occasionally you do have dialogue, but you're not actually speaking. You're just having some text read to you by another NPC. And I mean, okay, that's taken me very far away from this idea of, you know, the art style and the conflict on display being counter to what I really wanted to talk about in this episode, because more than other art forms, I feel like video games have to be concerned with the holistic aspects of what they are, of their existence, that the story, the mechanics, the art all plays in to to them, to what they're saying, to your experience. And so this idea, I want to go there. This idea that you can have conflict and you can make it cute, and
I have seen warriors in black in the east. They are from your area. Better armed
the fact that you have conflict and violence make it so palatable. To some degree, wrong with that. We need to not necessarily then speak of violence as such a bad thing, because we do anything other than that. You know, there's so much about the stories we tell, the media we consume, the media we create. Case in point, which is about violence, or has violence inherent to it. It's yeah. But the violence is so much a part of our world, and yet we downplay it in a lot of things. And I don't know, I feel at times like everything's running counter to what we're saying, to what we want things to be. And so I find that troublesome. I find it troublesome because, well, in part because it is
What do you
hypocritical to some degree. That we are this way about violence, and like, oh, we shouldn't do it, it's bad, blah 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 blah,
Hello.
etc etc. And I'm really selling my point now, but it's we don't we glorify violence, same time we deplore it. And it just, I don't know, I feel like that's the state of humanity. That cognitive dissonance is
Hello. A hand
just
scrawls on a wall, or carves into bone, a tale that undoes the world and teaches those who come after.
sorry.
What do you need?
We're glorifying violence, and yet we never stop to think about how much we are when we're doing it in a particular style. I mean, again, here I am playing a game that is all violence all the time, but the world that it's presenting is also one where there is no other option, which is in itself, whereas other games imply that there could be, but there isn't necessarily. Yet the artwork says otherwise. This artwork doesn't necessarily have that. And it's, well, to say the least, it's, well, to say the least, it's downright confusing. But I think I've run out of things today. I've played for half an hour already. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Gregory Palaci. Find me at OneGameDad on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and now Patreon. So you can support me there. You can find all my work at OneGameDad.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.